Thank you, Sally. Do you remember when you were little, when you had a bath, and sometimes you get hold of the sides and you go backwards and forwards and you make a great big wave? I say, maybe you do it now, I don't know. But then your mum would say, stop it, the water's going over into the bath, stop it. And you stopped. But what happened? The water kept moving. It didn't stop when you stopped. The water kept going. And I want you to fix something in your minds here, a picture of complete stillness and calm. Can you do that? Can you just fix something in your mind? Something that gives you that picture of complete stillness, complete calm. And I want you to hold on to that thought. So, the reading. Here's the situation. Jesus had spent a lot of time. He'd been teaching the crowds and the disciples, and he was tired. He needed to get away and leave the crowds behind. So he says to the disciples, let's go to the other side of the lake. So he gets into a boat with them, and there are other boats as well. And off they go. But he's so tired, he just lies down and falls asleep. And in the passage it says he fell asleep on a cushion. It's probably where the helmsman sat sometimes, on a leather seat of some sort. So that's probably where he sat. And while he's sleeping, this terrible storm occurs. Really violent storm. And the topography of the Lake of Galilee is such that it was prone to this sort of storm because there are lots of narrow, steep valleys that lead down to the lake. And the wind will hurl down these valleys, the squall, and suddenly set up a violent wave motion that still happens today. So this terrible storm starts. And this would have been known to the disciples, and would have been known to those who were the fishermen, who sailed these waters all the time. They were experienced sailors. They knew what they were doing. But this storm's so bad, they're terrified, utterly terrified for their lives. Yet Jesus is still asleep. All this is going on, he's still asleep. And the image of a storm at sea occurs elsewhere in the Bible and is associated with fear. Think of the story of Jonah. Think of the story of Paul sailing to Rome, trying to get to Rome, and he's shipwrecked off Malta. But all on board are saved. And then we have the same image from the Psalms. Psalm 69, a psalm of David. And David prays this: save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in the miry depths where there is no foothold. I have come into the deep waters, the floods engulf me. Now you might think, how is it possible to sleep through such a storm? Well, in my experience, it's entirely possible. I was once travelling from Cape Town to the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. I was doing some work there. And dinner time was approaching, and it was getting pretty rough. And I was that night I was sitting at the table with the doctor. And there were supposed to be 8 of us around the table, and we came to the meal time, and only 6 people were there. 2 had already quit. And after the soup, another one left. And after the next course, another one left. And by the end of the meal, there were just 3 of us at the table. The others couldn't stand it. It was bad. In the night, it got worse. And in the morning there were these terrible stories of the bar furniture, the tables and chairs sliding from one end to the other and back again and back again, and people being thrown out of their beds. I didn't know any of this. I was fast asleep. It didn't bother me. I wasn't bothered. I was okay. So I can fully understand that Jesus could sleep through a storm because I've done it. But remember how tired Jesus was. The disciples wake him up. And with a rebuke, "Don't you care that we drown?" Jesus wakes up. He commands, "Quiet, be still." The wind dies down. And there's dead calm. Dead calm. Not a reduction in the waves, in the ferocity of things. The wind has stopped and the sea is flat. Dead calm. I asked you at the start to have a picture in your mind of what complete stillness looks like to you. Fix that in your minds again now. It's hard to imagine this complete transformation from a violent storm to dead calm. But Jesus can do that. He is in control. He can change things unrecognizably. Going back to the Psalms, listen to this description of deliverance. This is from Psalm 107, verses 28 to 30. "Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed." This is divine power. Now it's the turn of Jesus to rebuke the disciples. They've rebuked him for being asleep, but he now rebukes them. "Why are you so afraid? Do you have no faith?" It's no wonder the disciples were completely awestruck. The NIV says terrified. So what can we learn from all of this? And for me, there are three main things. The first thing I thought was, well, it shows how human Jesus was. He's been so busy, he's exhausted. He has to lie down and sleep. So exhausted, there's a storm going on, and he's fast asleep. And to me, this is a comfort, knowing that Jesus got really tired. We all get tired. Jesus knows this. He understands this. He's experienced it himself, so he can sympathize with us. He can comfort us when things are rough. The disciples ask, "Who is this?" Their understanding is limited, even though they've witnessed some amazing things. But perhaps we can excuse them on the grounds that this is really the beginning of Jesus' ministry and their association with him. And yet they're still unsure, even having experienced and seen these amazing things that Jesus has been doing, healing people, delivering people, and so on. And I suppose it's true to say that our understanding is never complete, at least in this life. And I also believe there's room for honest doubt. But as we learn to trust, so our faith can grow and develop. But Jesus still feels the need to challenge his disciples. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" After all, he was there in the boat with them. So what was likely to happen to them if he was with them? What could go wrong? Is his challenge valid for us as well? I think the biggest question of all is, what do we do when the storms of life blow up how do we react if we think we're sinking? What storms are we battling through right now? Are we like Corporal Jones in Dad's Army? Don't panic, don't panic. And blunder about aimlessly? Or are we confident that Jesus is with us? He said, I am with you always. That's what he promises to those who put their trust in him. So if you're feeling swamped by troubles, this passage shows us the way. We cry out to Jesus. In Matthew's account of the same story, the disciples cry out, Lord, save us. And that can be our response too. And just as he heard their cry, he will hear our cry, our plea to him to save us. And you'll find out that he's not asleep and he's waiting for you to call out to him. Now, as I close, I want to take you back to the start of the talk. Again, this picture in your head of complete stillness and calm. Close your eyes now and put yourself in that place of stillness and calm. Just think about it. Just rest there for a moment. Now realize that Jesus can be there with you. And while he's with you, think about the storm that you might be in right at this moment. And while he's there with you, ask him to bring stillness and calm. Dead calm. Not even a ripple. Amen.